Hello guys, I am back from another review and today we're talking about what if Belle had the ability to summon heroic spirits. So, in the last video we talked about how, as we currently see Belle basically setting up, some of his army, not really army but more like actually yeah, I guess you can say it's an army, where we currently see him and the rest of his, heroic spirits basically getting ready for the attack of the monsters that are apparently terrorizing the 50, second floors, city or village. As when the monsters arrived, or at least the monsters have arrived, they would see a large troll basically leading the charge, basically using a horn to basically, tell them to basically charge. And after seeing this, his heroic spirits would basically charge in and they would start slaughtering all of them. And thanks to the help of some of the, adventurers nearby, including the Loki, Freya, and other familiars, they would easily beat, the monsters. And as for the troll would get killed instantly by one of his heroic spirits. I kind of forgotten. But either way, after that battle, everybody celebrated, thinking that they finally won this battle. But unfortunately, they were wrong. Like all things. So anyway, continuing on, as we also see a large crack in the ceiling of the 52nd floor, as some sort of weird goop would start coming out of there. As the goop would slowly shape, as the goop would slowly transform into a large skull. As it would start growing limbs and would start raging about that it's going to be, consuming everybody. And so everybody would start instantly attacking. And so, as everybody's basically trying to, fight it off, one of his heroic spirits, aka Emia, was told to basically charge in, and so he would use his noble phantasm, aka unlimited lost works. But it did temporarily beat him, but unfortunately it would start reforming its head, as Izuku would decide, not Izuku, I meant Belle, would decide to summon in new heroic spirits. And so, after setting up the circle, the, magic circle, and also the, not really catalyst, but more like, the mentioned, chant, the heroic spirits would basically arrive. In this case, he was gained, 3 heroic spirits. These are Alter Ego, Meltrolisp, which, by the way, I mean, Meltrolisp is pretty fun, but, out of the, out of the 5, what is it called? I can't remember the group's name, but, my personal favorite is probably, either, I can't remember her name, but she's also, basically a mix between, I think was, Medusa, but I can't remember the other. I can't remember her actual name, but I also liked, what is her name? Yeah, King Protea. But I actually I want all of you guys to basically pick, I actually wanted all of you guys to pick, Ashia Doman, because Ashia Doman is actually one of my personal favorites, just because of his design alone and his, and the legend that he's based off. Like, by the way, that's awesome. Like, seriously awesome. Especially, during the, recent events in, like, FGO, where he finally sort of gotten his redemption arc. I sort of wanted him to basically be, his heroic spirit. But unfortunately, guys, you decided to go for Meltrolis. But either way, and then there was Foreigner, aka Just Gets the Malloy, which, new favorite foreigner. The reason why is because during the time when it was, like, getting into FGO, there was, like, a few foreigners, and some of these choices were just like, no. Just instantly no. That's why I mostly go for, like, for Abigail, as, like, the only, like, summer, the non-summer, like, servant. I mean, look, back then, there was, like, what's her name? Mysterious Heroine XX. And the other, I can't remember her name. I barely remember. And finally, we have the final servant, which was Pretender, which, when I heard of this brand new class, I was pretty excited. And after hearing that the new servant class has its own, heroic spirit, aka, Oberon, which it turns out that his actual name was Oberon, I think his name was, like, Oberon, which was Oberon Volurgurn, which, after seeing his, his alternative, noble phantasm, which was, actually, I'm not gonna spoil it because, because soon, or maybe ish soon, I guess, when Lost Bout 6 basically arrives, I'm not going to spoil it for any of you because probably all of you are watching this and, are probably liking FGO, and I wouldn't like to, spoil it for all of you guys. So, yeah. So, after introducing themselves, Izuku would basically tell, not Izuku, I meant Bell would basically tell them to basically attack, the large monster. And after doing so, they would charge in and would use, not really all three of them would use their Noble Phantasm, but mostly two of them. AKA Meltrolus would basically use her Noble Phantasm, Sarasvati Meltdown, or Meltout. And finally, for, her heroic spirit, aka I've forgotten to tell her name, which was a thespian, she would use her noble phantasm, which was Kotick Wheel. And after defeating the large monster, they were told that the mayor wants to talk to them. And so, after arriving at the mayor's office, they would be told and also, ask him what was that monster, which apparently the name was called a Black Mud. Apparently the monster is quite dangerous and is actually feeding on fear, or at least that's what he says. And after a bit of talking, he would basically tell, them to basically start leaving. And so after leaving, we see, the rest of the familiars basically celebrating, basically winning, the battle between them and the large monster. And so, as everybody's basically celebrating, he would basically get ready to go to sleep, but before he can, he would, not really get a knock at the door, but more like, a rustle from the tent. And so, after opening up the tent, he would see a drunk ass, oh no, a drunk ass, Bet. And you know what happens. You know the rules, and so do I. Say goodbye to your pelvis. And so, let's just say his pelvis was about to be broken. So, yeah. So, that is where we basically ended off the episode. And so, let us talk about what happens next, ladies and gents. So, as Bell would wake up, he would say, he can't feel my legs, he would say. As right beside him was a pretty much happy, Bet. I should say this. As she's currently naked, as as Bell was also naked. Pretty much in absolute pain. In this case, a freaking bakery. Because remember, the French word for bread is pain, or pan, which, let's just say, in Bell's case, he's the entire bakery. Or more specifically, his lower pants. Or at least his lower, body. As he would say that, God, I can't move, he would say. As, Bet would start waking up, as she would sit up, as she would say this. Oh, hey, morning, Belle, she would say. And she would have a much more calmer tone instead of her usual, boy, fuck off. Anyway, continue on. As she would say this. Sorry about that, she would say, as he would say this. Can you please get me up? I can't feel my legs, he would say. As she would say this. Yeah, don't worry about it. Let me just, fix you up, she would say. And after saying that, Belle would basically be, carried on Bet's back. As everybody else is basically waking up, they would notice, Bet basically changes to her clothes, including Belle, as one of them would say this. Hey, Belle said, a random, familiar member, as you would say this. Yeah, he would say, as you would say this. Why are you having a piggyback ride on, on Bet? Said one of them, as he would say this. I can't feel my legs, he would say, as one of them would say this. Right, so you basically got fucked so hard that you basically lost all functionality in your legs. As he would say this. No shit, Sherlock, he would say. As he would say this. Who the fuck is Sherlock, he would say. Whatever, he would say. As after saying that, Belle would look at Bet, as she would say this. Guess I'll just have to bring you on a wheelchair, or just ask one of your, one of your familiar members to help you out, she would say. As he would say this. That would be nice, he would say. As after saying that, the rest of his heroic spirits would, also wake up. Technically. I mean, they don't really go to sleep, so they basically have to, they just do it just for fun, as one of them would say this. Specifically, specifically Europa, as she would say this. Ah, Belle, you're okay, as she would say, but before she could say anything else, she would see not Izuku, I meant Belle, basically on Bet's back, as she would say this. What happened to you, Belle? She would say, as she would say this. It's a bit embarrassing, he would say, as she would say this. Yeah, to say the least. Or at least, your masculinity, she would say with a laugh, as you'd say this. Yeah, I can't move my legs, he would say. As, after, saying that, most of the people there, mostly girls and some boys, would start blushing. As, you know, one of them specifically, Gilgamesh would say this. Ha 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 ha. Maybe you should at least practice a little bit. Or at least get, medicine for that, he would say. As after hearing that, he would just say, can you please rephrase that, he would say. As he would say this. Huh? Why? He would say. I mean, it's technically the truth, he would say. As he would say this. But it's actually, never mind at this point, he would say, hey, as you would start looking towards, Europa, as she would say this. Yes, Belle, she would say, as she would say this. Can I, stay on your bowl for now? It's a bit embarrassing, he would say, as she would say this. Oh, sure, she would say, as after saying that, Belle would be sat upon, not really sat upon, but more like, sit on the bull's back. As after doing so, he would basically hold on to Europa. And so, after, everything was set up, everybody would start leaving to go back to, to the surface. And so, after, packing up, they would start leaving, saying goodbye to the village. So, as Belle and, the rest of the familiars were basically leaving, one of them would say this. Dang, I feel bad for the guy, said one of them, as he would say this. Yeah, seriously, the guy literally lost, his manhood and also his loss of, walking, said one of them. As one of them would say this. You call that a, horrible thing. I consider that as a wonderful thing, said one of them. As he would say this. Yeah, masochist Joe. As he would say this. What? Who calls me that? He would say. As he would say this. Oh, nobody, he would say. Looking back towards his other familiar, I remember saying, typical masochist Joe. After saying that, we go back to Belle, as Belle would say this. As he would just sigh a little bit, as he would look over and would see, Koyanskaya, as Koyanskaya would say this. Hey, Belle, she would say, as he would say this. Yeah, Koyanskaya, he would say, as she would say this. I want you to come with me for, a little mission of mine. Not really a mission, but more like, looking around my, new factory that I'm currently making, she would say, as he would say this. Factory, he would say, as she would say this. Well, yeah, it's basically a factory for me and creating my artificial monsters, she would say, as he would say this. Oh, you mean your NFF services? I meant NFF services, he would say, as she would say this. Yes, now, you should probably get some sleep, because you definitely don't look good. As after saying that, he would say this. That'll be nice, he would say. As after saying that, he would instantly fall asleep. So, after waking up, he would wake up in, in their, in their familiar household, as he would say this. Ow, that hurt, he would say. As one of them would say this, specifically Hestia. Hey, Belle, are you okay? She would say, as he would say this. Do I look okay? He would say, as she would see that his legs are currently, well, not really good at all. I mean, he was basically, fucked till he basically can't walk anymore. As she would say this. Let me guess. Bet, she would say, as he would say this. She would just sigh a little bit as she would say this. I think it's better for you to just rest. I'll just call upon, what's his name? I'll just call upon Miak to basically heal up your legs, she would say. As Gilgamesh would say this. Don't worry about that, Miss Hestia, he would say. As after saying that, she would say, wait, really? She would say, as he would say this. Yeah. With my special type of mana, he would say, I can easily, heal him up just as well. I just need to get my runes, and as after saying that, he would start looking through his Gate of Babylon. As he would say this. It was going to take a long time, so you can just rest for now, he would say, as he would say this. Thanks, Gil, he would say. As after saying that, Belle would basically, look up at the ceiling, as he would say, I just hope that it won't happen again, he would say. Instant foreshadowing. So yeah. So after saying that, we go back to Koyatskaya. We're not really going back, but more like just go to Koyatskaya, as she's currently personally just like doing her usual work. More specifically, doing some financing with the help of like Gilgamesh, while Gilgamesh is still looking for the runes. As she would say this, "Hey Gilgamesh," he would say, as he would say this. "Yeah, Koyatskaya," he would say, as he would say this. I mean, she. Well, I'm currently planning on maybe expanding my brand, she would say. And if you don't know that meme, well, you're probably a little a little not really young, but more like pretty obscure to say the least, or a bit too under the rock. And if you know that reference, well, I will give you a hint. It's a PokeTuber. That's all you're gonna get. So, as we go back to to Koinskaya, I should say this. Well, I'm maybe planning on maybe making weaponry. So, can you give me give me some ideas for your weapons? She would say, as she would say this. I guess, but it's gonna be helping Master, right? He would say, as he would say this. I mean, she. Yeah, yeah. It's gonna be helping Master. After all, I do consider him as like a brother, she would say, as he would say this. Huh. Like older siblings, he would say, as she would say this. Yeah, I guess you say that. And it's also gonna help him with, his, little problem with his legs, she would say, as he would say this. Yeah, yeah, I know. I'm currently still finding the runes, he would say. As after saying that, they would start talking a little bit. Talking about mostly business and other types of stuff. Then we go to, to the three new servants, aka, sorry about that, and it might be a little bit, annoying to say the least, because in the background there's like my fan, which is pretty much close to my, bed where I usually record. So yeah, anyway, continue on. As we currently see, Nautilus, Jiska de Malloy, and also, Thespian basically, in the same room as, well, Burgess, Burgess, Emiya, Melusine, and also, yeah, Europa, I should say this. So, you're our new, you are your master's new servant, she would say. Specifically, Europa, as Melchulus would say this. Yeah, and by the way, she would say, she would say this. May I ask, why is there a goddess here, she would say. As, after saying that, Europa would say this. Oh, you mean Hestia, she would say. She would say this. Yeah. May I ask if she's a servant or as she would say this? No, she's an actual goddess, she would say. As, just Gesta would say this. How interesting, she would say. Are we perhaps in the, age of gods, she would say. As after saying that, one of them would say this, specifically Emiya. No, not exactly. In fact, it seems to be another world, so, as after saying this, one of them specifically, Thespian would say this. Well, it's quite interesting to say the least. Especially because of because of, Hestia being a Greek goddess. And at least we didn't have to, deal with, well, Zeus, she would say. As after saying that, one of them would say this. Oh yeah, Zeus, said one of them. As, Europa would say this. Yeah, Zeus, she would say. As she would basically be a little bit disgusted. And you probably know why. Look at the Lost Belt. Look at the freaking Lost Belt. More specifically, Lost Belt, Lost Belt Olympus. Or just the actual mythology. You'll probably know why I absolutely hate him. And that is why I consider, both, both Hephaestus, as in, regular Hephaestus from the mythology, and also Hades, as the most goodest boys. I mean, technically, how do I say this? Yeah, technically, Hephaestus does some horrible things in mythology, but at least he's not as bad as his, his freaking wife that literally cheats on them. Like, seriously. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, he's not really the sharpest, tool in the shed, as in, the most beautiful, but still. So, anyway, continuing on with the episode, as we currently see, wait for a second. Sorry about that. Anyway, continuing on with the episode. As, one of them would say this. Specifically, what is her name? Yeah, Vespian, she would say, either way, may I ask, how's our master over there? I mean, we did hear that he, lost the function of his legs, she would say, as one of them would say this, specifically, Europa, as she would say this. Well, it's because of a certain wolf girl, she would say, as one of them would say this. Oh yeah, the werewolf, she would say, specifically, well, you know, Mutualist, as she would say this. Yeah, her name is Beth, and she sort of became, Belle's girlfriend, she would say. As after hearing this, Hespesian would say this. Huh, I see, so our liege is now, has a seem to be, wife, she would say. As after saying that, Emiya would say this. Well, sort of, he would say. As after saying that, one of them would say this. Specifically, Burgess, as she would say this. Yeah, but let's just say the relationship is more like, on and off to say the least. It's more like, how do I say this? She would say, she would say this. Ah, I know. Imagine like, actually, just think of any examples at this point. I don't really have any examples right now. As after saying that, she would say this. Ah, I see. So, may I ask, she would say, as after saying that, one of them would say this. Specifically, you know, what's her specifically Melusine, as she would say this. Yes, she would say, as Justice de Malloy that said that, she would say this. Well, I'm quite, wondering if there are any, knights of, the Templar Knights here, she would say, as one of them would say this. Nope, there's no Templar Knight, she would say, said, well, metal sign, as she would say this. I see then. Too bad this town seems to be not as protected as most are. I heard this place is quite popular, and there's quite powerful, quite the number of powerful beings, like for example, gods and goddesses, but some of them mostly just take up arms, rarely. I heard, or at least, gotten some word that apparently some of the, members of the Ares familia has been causing a bit of trouble, she would say. As one of them would say this. Yeah, pretty much true, said, Melusine. As after saying that, everybody would just agree that, that if there's any trouble, they would basically stop it. As, Justice de Malloy would say this. So, may I ask, is there, a sleeping quarters for all three of us, she would say? As one of them would say this. Yeah, you're gonna be rooming with one of us, she would say. As after saying that, she would say this. I see, then. Well then, I'll be moving towards... She would start looking at one of them, as she would say, how about you, Miss, Europa, she would say, as she would say this. Fine, she would say. As after saying that, the rest would also, join their own rooms, and so everybody would basically get along pretty much fine. And we go back to Belle, as Belle would say this. My legs. I absolutely hate it, he would say, as he would start looking towards, one of his heroic spirits that was watching him. More specifically, Burgast. Not Burgast, I meant, Hessian Lobo. As Hessian would say this. As, Hessian would just, actually tilt his non-existent head. As he would say this. Hey, Hessian, can you give me some water, he would say. As Hessian would basically stand up and would start moving. As, Lobo would just look at him. As Lobo would say this. Are you okay after your mating? He would say. As he would say this. Do I look okay? He would say. As he would say this. Point taken, he would say. As he would say this. By the way, if this wolf girl, he would say this bet, he would say this. What? He would say, if this bet girl were to go in heat again, try and at least, find a way to dominate her in bed, he would say, as he would say this. What? He would say, as he would say this. What? It seems like a better option, he would say, as he would say this. I'm not in that type of mood or anything of that sort. I'm barely that type of guy, he would say. As after saying that, he would say this. But you at least need to try. After all, if you were to not, then you're probably gonna be the runt of the litter, he would say. As he would say this. But still, I don't want to freaking, that, he would say. As he would say this. Huh. Even though I generally, found my love, because, as he whispers, because she died, as he would basically go back to its normal voice, or not really normal voice, but more like its volume of voice, as Hessian would say, not Hessian, I meant Lobo would say this. But still, you need to at least show your dominance against, your mate. Especially in times of mating, he would say, as he would say this. But, but how, he would say, as he would say this. I can certainly help with that, he would say. But first, you need to get your legs healed up, so later for now, he would say, as he would say this. Thanks, Lobo, he would say, as he would say this. Don't mention it. After all, I am your servant, he would say, as he would say this. Thanks, he would say. As after saying that, we go back to, to Koyanskaya and also Gilgamesh, as Gilgamesh would say this. Ah, found it, he would say, as Koyanskaya would say this. Found what, she would say, as he would say this. Found it, he would say, as he would grab onto, well, a specific rune, as he would say this. Well, gotta go. I just finished up the rest of the documents, he would say. As after saying that, he would start going towards, a nearby, I guess you could say sort of coffee machine. It's more like a medieval version of that, with a bit of magic and gold. Yeah, Gilgamesh made it. And so after getting some coffee beans, which were out of nowhere, and would basically start grounding them up. After doing so, he would get a coffee cup, and after doing so, he would start sipping on it, as after, smacking his lips, going like, ah, that felt good, he would say. As after doing so, he would start leaving to go to Belle's room. As currently with Belle, as Belle is basically, with, Lobo, as Lobo is basically, like, near his bed, as after, knocking on the door, he would say, come in, he would say, as after doing so, Gilgamesh would walk in, as he would say this. Master, I gone the rune, he would say, as he would say this. Wait, really, he would say, as he would jump up a little bit, as he would say this. Yes. Now, you just need to hold still, he would say. And after saying that, Gilgamesh would, start healing his legs. And after the little chant, Belle would say this. Wait. As he would try to, move his legs, as after doing so, his legs would, finally move, as he would say this. Finally, my legs, he would say, as he would start, touching them a little bit, as he would say this. Yes, master. Now, I think it's probably time for you to, go on that little, expedition trip with, Koyanskaya, he would say, as he would say this. Sure, Gilgamesh, he would say. And after saying that, they would, as Izuku would, start walking, as, he would say this, specifically, Lobo, make sure to come with me later. After all, we need to get some lessons in, he would say, as he would say this. Sure, Lobo, he would say, as after saying that, we currently see not Izuku, I meant Belle with, Koyanskaya, as she would say this. Well, we're gonna be leaving tomorrow, so you better rest up for now, she would say. And also, pack up some stuff. We're gonna be staying there for a while, she would say, as he would say this. Ah, I see, he would say. As after saying that, she would, tell Izuku, goodnight, and after doing so, everybody would basically start leaving after dinner. Yeah, it was dinner time at that, at that point. And so, after doing so, Izuku would basically not Izuku, I meant Belle would instantly fall asleep. As after waking up, Belle would basically start, packing up his things, as he would start, bringing in, one heroic spirit, which was Hessian Lobo. And after doing so, he would say goodbye to the rest of his, heroic spirits, and would tell them to basically take care of the place with, with Hestia. And would also tell Gilgamesh that, he's going to be, the leader for now, which Gilgamesh was quite happy. And so, after doing so, him and Koyanskaya and also Hessian Lobo would start leaving. Wait for a second, my nose. So, as we currently see them basically moving through moving through Wario, as Koyanskaya would stop at a pretty large building, as she would say this. Welcome to NNF Services, she would say, as he would say this. Whoa, I never seen a building like that before, he would say, as she would say this. Well, it is after all from my world, she would say, as she would laugh a little bit, as he would say this. I see, and it's quite as currently we also see, some people basically there looking at this, at that building. And if you're wondering, well, imagine something of this sort. So just imagine something like this. And let's just say it's quite the, the stunning building as everybody is just like looking at it. Most people just like think, what the fuck is this? Because remember, it's basically like a medieval, almost like, medieval fantasy type era. And this doesn't fit. As Bao would say this. Well, that is quite the, as she would say this, yes, quite the beautiful building. Anyway, let's go, she would say. As after saying that, they would start going into the, into the building as we also see a reception area. As you would notice, one of the employees being like a pretty much regular, member of like, more specifically, just imagine like, one of the like demi-humans, more specifically somebody that's let's just say part bear, as he would say this. Welcome to, as he would say, Madam President, he would say, as she would say this. Ah, yes. Now, can you bring me to my office? She would say, as he would say this. Ah, sure, he would say. As after saying that, he would start, basically, bring them to a little elevator, which, he doesn't know what the elevator is, but, was told about, some things by, Koinskaya, but not this yet. As she would say this. Now, can you bring us to my office, she would say, as he would say this. Yes, ma'am, he would say, as he would start pressing buttons as he would go towards a little button. As, after pressing this button, a keypad would start, would start appearing out of nowhere from like the wall. As after, pressing a few buttons, he would, enter in a code and so another button would appear. And this button would be right next to the button that he pressed to basically bring in the keypad. A bit confusing. And after pressing this button, which was called, Ground Zero, which is apparently the name of her office, they would start, being, as the elevator would start moving, as Belle would say this. What in the, as he would move a little bit, as she would say this. Don't worry, just calm down. Besides, this elevator won't hurt you. Or at least, if there is any trouble, she would say, as he would say this. Ah, I see, he would say, as she would say this. Anyway, now, as she would start looking towards, towards the wall, as he would say this. What are you looking at? As before you can, he would see a large manufacturing plant. Like one of those, like, modern, like, plants that you would see in, like, in modern day. But instead, they're basically creating and manufacturing, monsters. More specifically, fusions of monsters from, her world, aka the, world of FGO, which, mostly consist of, like, of Jotun and some, other monsters from mythologies, and mixing them with the monsters from here, which also are based off mythologies, and also some fantasy tropes. As the elevator would stop, as you would, be put, or at least be, it would basically land on, the last floor. As, all three of them would basically start moving. As Bo would say this. So, this is NFF services, he would say. As she would say this. Yeah. And let's just say the several, like, monster filias are currently, getting our service, like, our services every single day, she would say. And it's quite useful, she would say. As after saying that, he would say this. Yeah, no kidding, he would say. Wait for a second. Sorry about that. As Korean Sky would say this. Now, as she would basically, reach towards the door, as this door seems to be, actually, it seems quite normal to say the least, or at least in standards of, like, of the Manchi. As after opening the door, it would open up, as you would see tons, and I mean tons of, like, normal items that you would see in, like, a normal office in modern day, as she would say this. Now, you may sit, she would say, as Bo would say this. Sure, he would say. As she would say this. No. Sit here with me, she would say. After all, you're basically like my younger brother, she would say. As he would say this. Sure, he would say. As she would say this. Now, as after, finishing sitting down, Belle would just look over as she would basically bring up some screens, as he would say, whoa, what the? As she would say this. I meant she. Well, this is my factory. As she would start, looking towards, not really looking towards, but more like, pressing some, some screens and basically start, looking around. As Belle would just be amazed seeing all of the, monsters that are being created, as he would say this. Koyanskaya, he would say, as she would say this. Yes, Belle, she would say, as she would say this. Well, may I ask, do the adventurers go know, as she would say this? Well, they do know. Even, the head god, apparently. But he did allow it because of our, high-tech, our high-tech standards, she would say, as he would say this. I see, he would say, as he thinks to himself. At this point, I'm starting to think that I'm going to become a tech mogul. Actually, what the heck is a tech mogul, he would say? As she would say this. Well, these monsters are ethically, created, and are quite disposable. And if you want, you can easily kill them without any, doing anything. And you can even control them. You just need to do some simple commands, which, can be anything. Like, for example, a standard motion to another, to a voice command, or something of that sort, she would say. It's quite, good in cases like, fighting against, monsters that are for entertainment, she would say. As he would say this. I see, he would say. As he would look over and would see more monsters being created, more specifically some simple goblins and even chimera, which, are from FGO, the, white ones with the purplish accents, which, by the way, cool, like, they're super cool in my opinion. The regular, chimera, it's okay, I guess, but it's pretty much standard chimera stuff, but the chimera with the, white and purple accents, chef's kiss, 10 out of 10, I absolutely love it. As after, a while of, like, looking through the screens, she would say this. Now, Belle, she would say, as he would say this. Yeah, he would look over as she would say this. Well, about your little problem with, with your little girlfriend, she would say, as he would say this. Yeah, he would say, as she would say this. Well, me and, Hessian and Lobo are going to be helping you out, she would say, as she would say this. Wait, really? He would say, as she would say this. Yeah, after all, you are my younger brother, she would say, as he would say this. I see, he would say, as she would say this. Now, we should probably get going. We're gonna be going to a little, like, the top area, she would say, as he would say this. Top area, he would say, as she would say this. Yeah, it's pretty much a condo. A little, like, condo apartment. Up there, she would say, as he would say this. I see, he would say, as she would say this. Hey, Joe, she would say, as after saying that, by the way, it's not that Joe, it's the other Joe. As after saying that, Joe would basically start bringing them towards, to the elevator again, as they would start moving towards the top floor. As after arriving at the top floor, they would see, wait for a second, as after, finally arriving at the top floor, as the doors would open, as his eyes would be blinded by a bit of light, as he would say, bright, he would say, as Coin Sky would laugh a little bit, as she would say this. Well, it is, after all, she would say. It is, after all, my personal bedroom, she would say. When I'm usually not, working with you guys, she would say, as she would say this. I see, as after opening his eyes, he would notice, well, the room is quite magnificent. Just imagine, something like, something that you would see in, like, in, like, a really fancy-ass restaurant. Like, something from Dubai, for example. Yeah, and not only that, there's also a modern-day, jacuzzi, a hot tub, and also a nearby swimming pool, which, by the way, how the fuck does it even fit there? I mean, the building is, big, but not that big, as you would say this. Well, may I ask, he would say, as she would say this. What is it, Belle? She would say, what the heck is that? He would say, as he would look over and would see, a large-looking thing over there. More specifically, a fridge, as she would say this. Oh yeah, that's my personal kitchen over there. It's actually perfect for me and, and my personal chefs, but I rarely use them and they're mostly just, doing their own thing. But I sometimes do that in case of, like, in case of a celebration. So that is why I'm maybe letting you, letting my personal chefs do their work, as usual, she would say, as you would say this. Sure, he would say, As after walking in, he would basically, see a door, as he would say this. What is this door, he would say? As she would say this. Oh yeah, that door, she would say, as she would laugh a little bit. As after, opening the door with both hands, it would reveal that it's already nighttime, as you would say, wait, we spent that, as she would say this. Yes, that much. You were so much, you were pretty much enjoying it to the point that it was basically almost, the evening already. I mean, it was already evening, she would say, as she would say this. Well, I see, he would say. Well then, I guess we should probably eat dinner, she would say, and he would say, as she would say this. Well then, she would say, let's start eating, she would say, as she would basically clap her hands, as a few, chefs would basically appear, as she would say, what is it, Miss Koinskaya, as they would say, as she would say this. I want you to fix up some meals, she would say, as after saying that, she would clap her hands, as after doing so, the chefs would start getting ready. And so they would start cooking up some meals, as it would be like modern day style meals, like for example, some, just imagine like something that you would see in like a European style restaurant. As after finishing eating, which, by the way, Belle was pretty much enjoying it, as she would say this, now let's get some sleep, she would say. As after saying that, they would start moving towards the bedroom, as she would say this. You can sleep over there. I'll be sleeping over there to the other bedroom, which is my personal one, she would say. As he would say this. Ah, thanks, Koye. I meant Koyanskaya, he would say. As she would say this. Okay, Ken. Just good night, she would say. As he would say this. Good night, he would say. As after saying that, he would go into the room and would see a pretty nice bed, some simple, like, cupboards, and also a large, a large looking, tank with some fish inside, as he would say this. Huh. This place is quite crazy, to say the least, he would say. As after saying that, Belle would basically go into the bed, as he would instantly fall asleep. As we go to, a different perspective, aka Freya, as Freya would say this. How interesting. This Koyanskaya girl is one of the members of the Hestia Familia. How interesting, and her buildings, or at least her building, is quite interesting as well. Maybe we should probably make a deal. Not really, not right now. After all, some bitch is trying to get in my territory, she would say. As after saying that, she would look towards, a different area. As we go to a different perspective, I meant. As this perspective is on a different city with a almost Babylonian style, feel with a bit of like, red light districts. As the woman would be seen, basically, in her throne, as she would say this. Soon, Freya, I'm gonna take my title back as the most beautiful goddess, and I'll make sure that you'll lose. And as for you, Mr. Bell, she would say, as after saying that, she would basically throw something off the ground, as she would say, I can't wait to have you as my prize, she would say, as she would start licking her lips. As we would basically see, a picture of Belle, basically with a happy face, as she would say this, soon, you will be mine, and I'll make sure that bitch, she would say, that bitch Freya gets what she deserves, she would say, as after saying that, she would say this, but for now, I'm gonna be relaxing, she would say, and after saying that, we basically end off the episode right off there. So yeah, I hope you liked the video, comment and subscribe, and I hope to see you guys next time. Bye-bye!